Mid-1960s. Nashville, a city that never sleeps because the music never stops. Recording studios run around the clock. Tour buses leave before dawn and come back after midnight. And in the middle of it all, a young Waylon Jennings learns the first rule of survival in the country music machine. You don't slow down. You can't slow down. Because the moment you do, someone else takes your spot. So you take pills, amphetamines, speed. Whatever keeps you awake. Whatever keeps you moving. It's not a party. It's not rebellion. It's just the cost of doing business. The artificial energy on which Nashville runs. Johnny Cash knows it. Waylon knows it. Half the industry knows it. You work 20-hour days because that's what the schedule demands. You record an album, then get on a bus, then play a show, then drive to the next city, then do it again and again. And somewhere in that cycle, sleep becomes optional. Food becomes optional. Everything becomes optional except the work. The pills aren't a problem yet. They're a tool, a way to keep the engine running when your body wants to quit. Nobody calls it addiction. They call it professionalism. And Waylon Jennings, the kid from Littlefield, Texas, who survived playing bass for Buddy Holly and giving up his seat on the plane that killed him, knows how to survive. He knows how to keep moving. But survival has a price. And in the 1960s, nobody's counting the cost yet. By the early 1970s, everything changes. Waylon isn't just another Nashville artist anymore. He's the outlaw, the rebel who fought the system and won. He produces his own records. He plays with his own band. He wears black leather and long hair and doesn't apologize for any of it. And the hits come. Lonesome, Ornery, and Mean. Honky-tonk heroes. This time, the sound is raw, real. Everything Nashville used to smooth over, Waylon leaves rough. And America loves it. The outlaw image sells. Albums, concert tickets, magazine covers. Waylon Jennings becomes more than a musician. He becomes a brand, a lifestyle, a symbol of rebellion that an entire generation wants to buy. But here's what nobody tells you about becoming a symbol. Once the image is built, you have to maintain it. Every day, every interview, every performance. You can't just be Waylon Jennings anymore. You have to be the Waylon Jennings everyone expects. The outlaw, the rebel, the man who doesn't follow rules. And maintaining that image 24 hours a day requires fuel. Not just energy, confidence, edge. The ability to walk into any room and own it without hesitation. The pills from the 60s aren't enough anymore. The pace is faster now. The stakes are higher. The pressure is constant. So cocaine enters the picture. Not as a party drug, as maintenance. The thing that keeps the outlaw image alive when the man underneath it is exhausted. Nobody calls it a problem, not yet. Because Waylon's still functioning, still making hits, still selling out shows, still being exactly what the industry needs him to be. The cocaine isn't destroying his career. It's fueling it. But by the mid-1970s, something shifts. The drug that was supposed to help him keep up starts becoming the thing he needs just to feel normal. It's no longer about staying ahead. It's about not falling behind, not losing the edge, not letting anyone see that the outlaw might be tired, and the amount it takes to maintain that feeling starts growing. A little more each month, a little more each year, until by the early 1980s the number becomes impossible to ignore. $1,500 every single day. Not for pleasure, not for recreation, just to maintain, to stay functional, to be the version of Waylon Jennings that the world expects. To wake up and feel like the man in the black leather vest instead of the exhausted 40-year-old from Texas who just wants to rest. $1,500 a day. Do the math. That's $45,000 a month. Over $500,000 a year. Just on cocaine. Just to keep the machine running. And it's not sustainable. The money starts disappearing. The debt starts piling up. By the early 80s, Waylon Jennings owes $2.5 million. Not because of bad investments, Not because of mismanagement, because of the cost of being Waylon Jennings. The career that made him a millionaire is now bankrupting him. The image that made him famous is now eating him alive. And the worst part is, he can't stop. Because stopping means admitting the outlaw bit got out of hand. And admitting that means losing everything he built. So he keeps going. Through 1981, through 1982, through 1983. The shows continue. The albums keep coming. And on the surface, everything looks fine. Waylon Jennings is still the outlaw, still the legend, still the man who won't be tamed. But underneath, he's collapsing. The $1,500 days are no longer giving him an edge. They're just keeping him from falling apart completely. He's not getting high anymore. He's just trying to feel normal, trying to get through another day without anyone noticing that the outlaw is barely holding on. And then comes the moment that almost every addict faces eventually. The moment when you convince yourself you can control it, that you can quit for a little while, clean up, and then come back to it on your terms. Controlled, manageable, safe. Somewhere in the Phoenix area. Before 1984, Waylon tries. He detoxes, stays clean for about a month. Feels better, feels stronger. Feels like maybe he can do this differently now. Maybe he can go back to using, but this time, he'll be in control. This time, it won't own him. It's the most dangerous lie addiction tells. The bargain. The idea that you can renegotiate the terms with the thing that's been slowly killing you. And for a while, Waylon believes it. Because believing it is easier than admitting the truth. That the only way out is to stop completely. Forever. No bargaining, no control. Just done. But the bargain fails. It always fails. And by early 1984, Waylon Jennings knows he's out of options. The debt is crushing him. The habit is crushing him. The image is crushing him. And if he doesn't change something fundamental, he won't make it to the end of the year. March 1984, Arizona. A house in the desert. Far from Nashville. Far from the studios. Far from the tours and the interviews and the constant pressure to be the outlaw. Waylon and Jesse Coulter cancel everything. The gigs, the obligations, the appearances. They pack the tour bus and drive out into the middle of nowhere. And they prepare to do something Waylon hasn't done in nearly 20 years. Stop. Not slow down. Not take a break. Stop. Completely. Cold turkey. No plan, no medical supervision. No rehab facility with experts and support groups and 12-step programs. Just a man, his wife, and a house in the desert. And the decision to see if the man underneath the myth can survive without the cocaine that's been holding him together. Jessie describes it later in terms that don't romanticize anything. She says it was painful, physically painful, emotionally painful. Every bone in his body screamed. Every nerve felt like it was on fire. The withdrawal wasn't poetic. It wasn't redemptive. It was just hard. The kind of hard that makes you question whether surviving is worth it. But Jessie stays. She doesn't leave. She doesn't give up on him. She prays. She sits with him through the worst of it. Through the sweats and the shakes and the moments when Waylon's body is trying to convince him that going back would be easier than pushing through. And somehow, day by day, hour by hour, it works. Not because of a miracle, not because of divine intervention, but because Waylon Jennings finally chooses something harder than maintaining the image. He chooses life, the real one, the one without the $1,500 days, the one where he's just a man trying to survive, instead of a legend trying to live up to his own myth. March 1984. That's when the cocaine stops. Not because of a dramatic intervention, not because of a courtroom or a jail cell or a public scandal, but because a man in the desert finally admitted that the role he'd been playing was killing him, and the only way to survive was to stop playing it. The drugs end. The debt doesn't disappear overnight. The damage doesn't heal immediately. But the man who walks out of that Arizona desert house is different from the man who walked in. Not louder, not more rebellious, just clearer, more honest, more aware of what the outlaw image actually cost. And here's what matters most. Waylon Jennings stays sober, not just for a year, not just until the next album cycle, for the rest of his life. 18 years. From March 1984 until his death in February 2002. 18 years without cocaine, without the $1,500 days, without the fuel that nearly destroyed him. The music doesn't stop. The career doesn't end. But the man making the music is different now. The albums after 1984 don't try to recapture the wildness of the outlaw years. They don't sell rebellion. They sell wisdom. The kind of wisdom that only comes from staring into the abyss and choosing to step back. When Waylon talks about his son Shooter being part of his motivation to quit, you hear something in his voice that wasn't there before. Humility, gratitude, the understanding that survival isn't automatic, that he came close to losing everything, and that getting another chance isn't something you take for granted. The outlaw image made Waylon Jennings famous, but the decision to walk away from what that image demanded is what kept him alive. Here's what most people don't understand about that kind of addiction. It's not about being weak. It's not about making bad choices or lacking willpower. It's about what happens when the thing that makes you successful starts demanding more than you can give. When the fuel that kept the machine running becomes the thing that's destroying the machine. For Waylon, cocaine wasn't about getting high. It was about staying functional, about meeting the expectations of an industry that wanted him to be the outlaw 24 hours a day, about maintaining an image that required constant proof, constant energy, constant edge. And when you're spending $1,500 a day just to feel normal, you're not partying, you're not rebelling, you're surviving, barely. And the math catches up eventually. The body gives out, the money runs out, the excuses run out, and you're left with a choice. Keep going and die. Or stop and figure out who you are without the thing that's been defining you. Waylon chose to stop, and that choice saved his life. The years after 1984 aren't the most celebrated in Waylon's career. They don't get the documentaries or the retrospectives. The hits aren't as big. The albums don't sell as many copies. But they matter more than anything he did in the 70s, because they prove something the outlaw myth never could, that you can survive the machine, you can survive the image, you can even survive yourself, but only if you're willing to admit when the role you're playing is killing you, and only if you're willing to walk away from it, even when walking away feels like losing everything. March 1984. A house in the Arizona desert, a canceled tour, a wife who refused to give up, and a man learning that the hardest thing he'd ever do wasn't becoming the outlaw. It was learning to live without being him. Waylon Jennings didn't just quit cocaine in that desert house. He quit the myth, the expectation, the pressure to be something bigger than human. And what he found on the other side wasn't fame or fortune or another hit record. It was just life. Quiet, honest, real. And for the first time in 20 years, that was enough. The $1,500 days are over. The $2.5 million debt eventually gets paid. The career continues, different but intact. And Waylon Jennings spends the last 18 years of his life proving that the greatest act of rebellion isn't refusing to follow the rules. It's refusing to die for an image. That's the real outlaw story. Not the leather and the long hair and the hit records, but the moment a man chooses survival over myth and lives long enough to tell the difference. March 1984. Arizona. A desert house. The day Waylon Jennings saved his own life by admitting he couldn't save the outlaw. And that admission, quiet and unglamorous as it was, matters more than every song he ever wrote, because it kept him alive. And staying alive meant he could keep making music, keep being a father, keep being a husband, keep being Waylon. Not the legend just the man. And in the end, the man was always more important than the myth.